Hello everyone, Ejidiong Elijah from Live Green Africa Environmental Talk, and today it's gonna be very amazing and educating session here with our vibrant guests. Please sir, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me at Live Green Africa today. I'm Ishaya Gabriel Balarabe from Katsina State. It's an honor to be on the plateau with Live Green Africa. And I'm an aspiring medical geographer, an environmental advocate. Yes, signed with New Carrion in the Philippines. I would love to appreciate this opportunity as I get to say to you that a lot of things are happening in and around the nation Nigeria, and with Live Green Africa's move, I see a restoration of the lost environmental glory. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've heard a lot about you from my boss here, Shegun, and our advocate here in Just for Live Green Africa. Well done, Sarah, behind the camera. So we'll go straight to the question. I'm aware of the just concluded broadcast about the situation of deforestation. Can you please give us a synopsis of the discussion of that area of concern? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was an honor to be at the just concluded Environmental Talk webinar, and I was glad to have quite a number of audience. Now, the Environmental Talk this time around focused on the desertification rates in northern parts of Nigeria. And being a young man who grew up in Nigeria, at least I've been privileged to travel quite a number of states in the northern parts of Nigeria. I think I've traveled about 15 of the states thereabout. And I've been privileged to see a few things. One of it is the loss of flora and fauna, that is plants and animals, due to human population, inappropriate policy decision making, and lack of regulatory bodies to look into these things. And fourthly, is lack of a restorative plan that is sustainable in nature. And so at the just concluded environmental talk, I would point it to us how that a lot of things have been lost, a lot of plants have been lost, and a lot of animals are getting lost by the day. And I believe that Live Green Africa, as it continues in this order, will be doing a lot of grassroots building as we seek to restore the order again. Thank you.
Okay, when you talk about restoration plan, I grew up in the south actually, and we are known for the tropical rainforest. But when we talk about the north, actually, we are looking at a dry land. We are looking at no forest. We are looking at nothing like leaf there. So like we're trying to educate our audience, because when we say north, you just feel like everything is dry, they have sand dunes, but here you're talking about restoration plan. So how can you please give us a picture of what the north is like in terms of forestry resources?
Okay, thank you so much. You see, the north is an amazing place because though it's always painted as a dry land, there are parchments of uniqueness and a touch of every part of the country at large present in the north. We have places that are swampy. We have places that are rich in soil, alluvial soils. We have places that have been proposed to or speculated to have certain mineral resources that are only native to the southern parts of the country. And so I'll just give a little pointer that the north itself, if not for the desertification rate that is alarming by the day and the deforestation that is continuously left unchecked, the north used to be with a touch of the tropical rainforest. There are some plants that are available native to the tropical environment that are found in the north. But in recent years, they are beginning to get lost. We used to have some species of the redwood. They are getting missing. We used to have some species of the acacia. They are getting lost by the day, or they are long lost. Because as a child, I grew up seeing some of them, but currently I can't find any of them again. And so we have sand dunes indeed, yes. When you go to places like Jigawa, Megatori, around Adama, you see sand dunes and you love them. When you see these landforms, they are lovely. You see parchments of holes and you see a lot of other things, they are lovely. But then the modification that man has brought and then climatic changes is really altering.
That's so disheartening. But it's fine. We are here. Live Green Africa is here. We are going to restore and recover. Okay, sir. Okay. we gather that you grew up in the north, a very handsome northern brother, in case he's
Thank you.
single. Hello.
Thank you so much.
So we gather that you grew up in the north. What are those glaring changes in landform? What are those changes in your climatic conditions and your landforms that you can practically tell us that, okay, this is the effect of deforestation, this is the effect?
Oh, thank you so much for this pragmatic question, and I would love to answer it pragmatically. You see, a lot of things can serve as pointer or parameter for which I will measure climatic changes due to deforestation activities. I'll take just 2 or 3 if time permits. One is the erosion rate that has increased largely. Now, growing up, I grew up in somewhere around BCGA Road. That's a cotton ginnery industry that is now dead, no longer functional, just nominal. And we migrated to somewhere around Guadao. Guadao used to be a level playing field that is large enough and that is good, harboring so many plants and animals. I remember having parrots in their numbers. Yes, in the north, we had them in their numbers. And then along the line, when trees started getting fallen and people were moving, they started cutting down a number of trees, and before we knew it, as it stands today, as at January when I traveled last time, there are no good roads. In fact, last month, I received a call from home that my younger sister fell off from the bike because the roads are so bad currently. Now, I'm looking at the effect of the trees that were long existing there that have been fallen, and how their fallen state have impacted the road networks. We're looking at how that these trees that are missing now leads to a lot of cardiovascular and respiratory diseases recorded in their numbers in the hospitals. And it's just a pointer that the climatic environment is getting altered by the day. I'm looking at how that practically in the farming structure has been altered. I will take this illustration as I just peg the question here. Within my church environment, I forget to say I'm a Christian by the name and by profession and by life. And when you get into the church environment, the walk forwards, from the left side of it used to be a good swampy environment where rice only thrives. So within a 200 by 200 meter land space, rice could thrive in a certain location. Pumpkin was thriving also there. But as it stands today, it can't thrive. And when I mean they thrive, the places are waterlogged and the carrying capacity of the soil is so effective that throughout the season, rice is existing and pumpkin can survive. But as it stands today, it's long lost. The parrots are gone. Other natural plants are missing. So I'm saying that the environment, the quantity of methane emitted is increasing because the rice was already absorbing methane in their numbers before. Now it's no longer there. So I'm imagining how much of it is emitted.
I'm so sorry about that. It's just that we keep having issues that our environment keep changing, but I'm sure that we're gonna be just fine. So my question: how will you advise our listeners? How will you advise someone out there the little change they can make? How will you advise them to carry out small little actions that will actually help us mitigate this effect?
Wow, thank you so much. I was privileged to work with the Katsina State Arid Zonal Program in 2015, and I was part of the people who canvassed and advocated for the Green Vegetation Project, where we go planting trees across the 34 local governments of the state. And I found out that with as little as planting of a tree by a puppy, we can actually begin to cut down on climatic effects that are negative. One, with as little as, can we just have every children plant at least a tree? We'll be going a long way. Can we have an advocacy, which I have pioneered in my school, Federal University Dusema, to be precise. I canvassed and I left a structure, hoping that it's still running because the ASU strike now is another menace to that project. That we can canvass for non-littering, zero littering of plastic across the surface. These things can cut a lot of things. Can we just canvas and can we just implement this project in their little numbers? We'll have a lot of things that will be resolved. Can we canvas that there is no unwanted falling of trees? That there can be establishment of ranches if for animals, or on the other hand, there can be separation of areas where plants can be grown. Especially we can grow plants that are actually reptile, like snake repellents, mosquito repellents. The neem tree, as Azadirachta indica, is a very good plant that does a lot of things, very nutritional and very safe. The oil of it is the safest so far, according to a research in India, for preservation of fish. The oil extracted from Azadirachta indica, can we make it something available and can be planted? Let me say this in passing, that this tree, Azadirachta indica, which is neem tree, is actually not an indigenous plant in Nigeria. It is actually a native of India. But then we have it in Nigeria, and it could actually do a lot of things. It has been proven to be a major source of curtailing erosion. If we have this, I think we can go a long way.
Thank you very much. You're almost like running through the questions I have here already. But how do we keep up with the negative impacts of these measures while we try to correct it, while we try to mitigate? How do we keep up with the negative effect? Because you see, I'm just trying to deal with the question. You see that the impact is not only environmental, health-wise, we are suffering the impact. So how do we keep living with it? How do we keep living with it while we mitigate it?
Thank you so much, ma. And I'll just say this to my audience who are listening also, that you see, it's like a marriage to a bride who is sick yet is being loved. The fact that she's sick does not mean that you stop loving her. I understand that everybody wants to have a house. Everybody wants to live a life comfortable. They want to expand. Like for me, I'm hoping to have a golf club in my compound. So you can imagine the land mass I will cover. Now, then that is what we want. However, for us to do these things, we must take into account a number of things. One, a research report stated that the amount of the tons of emission that a tree can consume to save human respiratory organs is quite enormous. So, in other words, if I would advocate that for us to keep up with this thing while we restore the other, I would say, how many houses would be willing to have at least a tree in their compound? At least a tree. When I mean a tree that is about 10 years old in their compound. Then we'll be doing a deliberate work to make things right. And so, beyond just that tree of a thing, we could also have individuals who would take it upon themselves to encourage children. We have the Almajiris, which is a menace in Nigeria, who could encourage children as little as these children. Can you just do these things for food? They do it for food, meager food, and they will plant these things, and these things are restored. Can we warn against unnecessary falling of fuel wood and provide sustainable alternative to fuel wood, which is a major source of energy in the whole of the 19 northern states?
Okay, thank you very much. That's very, very practical, and I hope that out there, you and I, we are just ready to save the climate. So, on a final note, how can Africa build a climate resilient continent? How can Africa, when we're talking about Africa, we're not talking about Nigeria. How can Africa build a climate resilient continent?
Thank you so much for this question, and I'm privileged to answer this question. Let me say that Africa is an amazing place, and we could do a lot of things if only we can get the right information from the right sources in the right way at the right time for the right cause. 5 rights. Just for those noting, 5 rights. And so one of the things I've seen in my findings is that Africa can begin to adopt a sustainable structure. One of the world billionaires, if I'm not mistaken currently, or emerging billionaires, is into estate building. And his estates are plastic, fully plastic. He runs an estate built from scratch on plastic. It's in India. Another one runs on bottle. He just built a structure on bottles, PEP bottles, and all of that. Africa can begin to think of alternatives to the kind of structures we have. So we are cutting down on waste on one hand, saving the environment of non-biodegradable waste, as well as living, because these things can actually stay without falling off trees. We could actually use the trees as fences instead of cutting them down. Why don't we have them as landmarks to build our fences around about? These things existed in the days of our fathers in the 90s, in the 1950s, before the carbon emission increased to beyond 1.5. We could have these things in place. Another thing we could do is, beyond the statements and the writings, can we practicalize? Can we have a government who is looking into the practicality rather than the theoreticals? And it's not about the government. The government is not the people in power. The government is I and you who is listening to me here and now. What can you do as an individual? You don't wait for the government to come and tell you not to cut down the tree in your house. Now you know the impact of those trees. Can you look at, if I told you have to cut one tree, knowing that not every tree that is planted will grow easily or quickly, can you plant 10 trees before you cut the one? So that if at all any is dying, at least you are sure, no matter what, 2 will make it to the daylight. Africa is large enough to implement a change that the globe is looking for. Africa is large enough for the entire world to come and learn from us. We have abundance of resources that the general world is looking for, but we have limited implementation. I just hope that we can actually begin to look into it and begin to make do with what we have, no matter how little. It is the little drops of water that makes a mighty ocean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was quite educating, and like everything we're trying to see here is heal the world, heal the climate, heal the world. So thank you very much, sir. It's really nice having you, and that's been a very amazing session. And here we are. Thank you very much for listening. Live Green Africa. We are here to heal the world. So wherever you are, you can actually log on to our website, register with us, volunteer now, and we are going to work this out together. Thank you.